Well, it's Monday night. It's 8 o'clock. You know what time it is. It's time to start your week off right here on Nerd Initiative's Play for Keeps. Mickey, play the intro. And what is going on, everybody? Welcome back. I hope you guys all had a wonderful weekend, had a fantastic weekend, and hopefully your Netflix didn't crash. My name's Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur. And with me, as always, my cohort in crime, my toy maker terrorizer. It's Mickey CWK Smith. Mickey, say hi to everybody.
Hi, everybody. What's going on, guys? It's been a crazy week. This is fun, though. Like, I'm happy to just sit here and talk about something instead of working.
Yes, apparently Mickey is having a little PTSD. He didn't want to put his headphones back on, but you know, it is what it is. He did this. He's doing this just for you, for the love of the game,
for the fans.
Yeah, it's all for the fans. So this past week, a lot of great things have happened. The big thing is that the Strong Museum of Play, which is also the National Toy Hall of Fame, has now put out and released the big toy news, the new inductees to this year's Toy Hall of Fame. Now, we're going to briefly go down what happened, who's it being inducted, and then we're going to do a follow-up episode on the toys themselves.
Yeah.
Okay? Because we already had this whole idea planned of doing the video game controllers. And so let's just jump right on in to some toy news. That's right. It's plastic. So we've got some big toy news going on this week. I don't like that one. Let's try it the other way.
Bam. Look at that.
Ooh, bam. This is what happens when you have two guys who have a controller right now. That's why we're talking about weird controllers this week.
Nobody wants to see our faces, man. Get our faces off of there.
That's right. So, big news, like we said, talking toy news. I think first up, we're going to talk about some personal toy news for me. A big thing is, obviously, you guys know I'm a big, huge Power Ranger fan, and because Power Rangers like Tokusatsu, Super Sentai, all that stuff, I also am a big Kamen Rider fan. Okay, now Futopia came out just about a year and a half ago on Crunchyroll, and this is going to be inspired by the Futopia movie. So this is Kamen Rider Cyclone Skull. If you notice, this is not Cyclone Joker. That is because at some point in this movie, he's going to get the V2 Skull Gaia memory. We're not sure if this is going to be the boss or if this is going to be Shotaro. So I'm really interested. I love the fact that the design is, you know, just like any decent Kamen Rider figure, it goes straight down the middle because of the whole double aspect and the mix and match. And if Mickey will let me take over for just 2 seconds, after we go through all the pictures of everything, of all the accessories, you'll notice it has the multiple hands. It has the wafty scarf that comes with it, because if you look at some of the original the original Cyclone Joker figure, it does have the wafty scarf, but this has a little bit more texture. It's been a decade. They've been able to figure this out. Also, it has the blaster. Now, the blaster looks a little different because, you know, yes, you get the blaster when it comes to the Joker side. Well, the blaster you really got when it was the Trigger side, so this blaster is attributed to the Skull side. And then the weird thing is, and because, you know, what's the one thing that you do? Merchandising. The hands down there actually are set up. There is a set of hands in there, left and a right, that are designed specifically for the hard boiler. I know I'm talking some really, really strange things going on here. The hard boiler is Kamen Rider's motorcycle.
Oh, okay. Every time I think I know know something about Kamen Rider, I talk to a fan and I'm like, oh, never mind, I don't know anything. I'm out.
Well, that's the fun thing about Kamen Rider and Super Sentai in general, is that every single time when it reboots every single year, we do get something different.
Yeah.
Because it's easier for them to restart from scratch than it is to try to continue a series. We've never really had a continuous series from one team to the next. They've tried in Super Sentai with Zenkaiger. They did well enough in Metal Heroes, which is something we haven't even talked about at all, but we know them as Big Bad Beetleborgs. That's why we had 2 different seasons of Suits, because there were 2 back-to-back seasons.
Okay.
Yeah. So like I know all this weird stuff. So
Because I was wondering why he was split down the middle. I was like, but I'm
Yep.
gonna,
Highly recommend. It is the first Kamen Rider series I've ever watched. Maybe I'm banking on nostalgia, but it's a really good one. Fantastic music. Like a lot of these second generation Heisei era riders are really 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 good. Not taking anything away from Blade or Fies or any of those early Heisei era.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know my stuff, Mickey.
I trust you.
All right, what do we got up next?
Am I running it or you?
No, I think we both. So yeah. So like I said, so it's got the thing, and then see there's the hand specifically designed. So if you do have the hard boiler, which that is the name of the motorcycle, there's reasons why. We're not going to get into it. We want to talk about it one time. I mean, obviously, we can do that on our one season wonder show, because every single season of Super Sentai and Kamen Rider technically is a one season wonder.
So
But yeah,
the bike is every season it's the hard boiler.
no,
matter what.
the bike in this season is
Okay.
the hard boiler
Okay.
because of who's supposed to be
Whatever it does.
Joker in this series. Because you notice the bike should have a little bit of purple accents.
Yeah.
But the bike itself also does split in half.
I can see it's green on the backside.
Yeah, so they have a neat thing in it that it comes in this weird tank peripheral, because we're talking peripherals today, thing that comes out into the town, and it literally, we're just going to use really poorly executed, because I didn't think about talking about this. These are teamed up together, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go that way. So this will pop out, and it's modular, a different one.
Oh, snap.
And so it has like a jet ski mode. It has a aero mode. It has the ground mode. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's just there to sell toys. And in the meantime, it was literally just the whole centerpiece of their command center.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
I like that. A lot of connection to, like you say, Super Sentai, Zords and stuff like that. That's cool.
Oh, yeah, well, it's all tokusatsu, man. And I mean,
Yeah.
in Japan, they even do seasons that will cross over with Super Sentai. There's whole movies. There's Kamen Rider versus Super Sentai. I can't tell you, probably at least a dozen of them.
I've only waded into the very shallow waters of Kamen Rider then.
Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, when he means that, he's talking about Masked Rider on Fox with Purvis.
Hey, I've seen a few of the older ones. I watched Shin Kamen Rider, which was very interesting.
Shin Kamen Rider is a whole different story. Oh man, no,
that was dark. I was like, man, I don't remember it being this dark.
Nope. No, Shin was there for a whole different Toku fan. Yeah. So let's talk about it.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We have all the National Toy Hall of Fame inductees for this year.
Well, these are nominees, right? Only 3 of them got in. Is that correct?
I don't know. Let me double check.
Okay. Because I mean, those are some bangers right there. I see Pokemon cards, right? Like that's Pokemon cards. The Hess truck.
So the inductees have been revealed. All right. As per the Strong Museum of Play, and I quote, Rochester, New York, it's official. Today, the National Toy Hall of Fame introduced, here we go, out of everything that's on here. Yes, you were right. You're absolutely right.
Okay. Make sure I wasn't crazy.
Yep.
I didn't get enough pictures then.
Were My Little Pony.
Woohoo!
Phase 10, the card game, of which I've never played.
Dude, what's up?
Nope, haven't played that.
Banger.
And then, of course, they are robots in disguise. Transformers have finally been introduced in the Toy Hall of Fame.
So look, I want to know how My Little Pony and Transformers weren't already in the Toy Hall of Fame.
Do you know what's in the Toy Hall of Fame?
Yes, but
Cardboard box made it before Transformers. Okay, and I'm not knocking that. Cardboard box needs to be in there. Stick is in the Toy Hall of Fame.
Now we have stick with horse head.
Well, hobby horse, I believe
Yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah. I know, I
the
know.
particular term.
Ah,
But it makes sense. Other
yeah.
games were game books. So, if you notice on the left side here down by me, they're like the choose your own adventure books
Yep.
would be a good one. RC vehicles, the stick horse, the trampoline, although it's very poorly represented there. The Hess toy truck, Pokemon trading cards, I get it. Um, Hess toy trucks, I think, would definitely be a very American thing,
Oh yeah, super
um,
classic. Yeah.
as it is the National Toy Hall of Fame. I think that we could see that come up again.
Hmm.
I don't know what their nomination things are. Like if you're nominated one year, how far do you have the cool down period before you get the next one?
Yeah.
Uh, it would be
Well,
interesting to see. Is there anything aside of obviously from Transformers, um, that you would want to put in, especially from this very 80s? And let's not
well,
forget apples to apples. I got to, as I like to
yeah.
call it, family friendly Cards Against Humanity.
It So, I'm assuming Balloon is the nominee. Since
Yes,
there's a
Balloon
so,
was as well.
if we've got stick and cardboard box and ball and all, how is Balloon not already in there, right? Like, that's a
I,
classic.
I don't know. I guess that one just flew off.
Well, their hopes were deflated once again. Maybe next year, Red Balloon. Next year.
Yeah.
We'll get 'em.
Well, 99 red balloons. I think of you and I let it go. Now,
Yes.
here's a funny thing. Now, Mickey, are you familiar with My Little Pony at all?
I am actually. I mean, I'm not
Okay.
like a brony, but I am
So,
familiar.
so what is the name for the thing? I'm going to throw this one out here.
Uh-oh.
What is the name for their little stamp on their side there?
Oh, man. You know what? I don't
This is for
remember.
everybody in the chat who
W
wants to put it out too.
we just I'd say, like, 6 months ago, went over this because I wanted to know because my wife found her My Little Ponies from when she was a child, like her OG ones, right? I mean, they're dirty and messed up, but I was like, "What is the stamp?" And I was trying to look up how much they might be worth or which ones these were, and I remember reading about it, and I don't remember what the stamp is called.
They are called cutie marks.
Cutie marks. There it is.
This is why I do what I do.
You're the man.
But the cutie mark was, synonymous for being able to make multiple figures. If
Yeah.
I remember correctly from the Toys That Made Us, I believe the first line only had 12
Mhm.
characters, and then it just went crazy after that. Big shout out to our friends over in the cell for the Toys That Made Us, because I know I just referenced that, and because we love all those guys over there. Hi, Brian.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Phase 10, I've never played. What's funny is if you look at the Strong Museum of Plays picture, as opposed to this one from the nominees here, their other picture they have on their website, like they even have Slag, the Dinobot, in the picture. I'm like, come on.
Ah.
Oh no, this is the winner's picture. So the winner's picture had two versions of Phase 10, Old School Optimus, Slag, and then three different ponies, definitely from three different product lines, two from the
Yeah.
old ones and one from the newer design, because the newer ones, obviously, if you have Rainbow Dash, it makes you 20% cooler.
True.
But I got to, here's the deal, Kat. I see what you're talking about apples to apples wasn't introduced this year. Um, I get it. A lot of people, like, I didn't know what apples to apples was for a very long time. I think it is a great game. It teaches kids really good reading responsibility and how to connect two and two together. But if you're gonna put apples to apples up against My Little Pony and Transformers, what's up? It's a straight what's up.
I'd like to know more about how they choose the inductees. Like,
Yeah, I think
is
it's
it like the Baseball Hall of Fame where it's, like, up to writers and reporters, or is it like
well. Let's see. They have the exhibit. I don't know. Um,
I
Again,
never looked it up.
I really do think that after we do this for quite some time, and like I said, I live very close to the museum.
Yeah.
Um,
We need some picks.
I'm not saying picks. I mean, I might just find like the board and everything and see what we can do about getting a tour. Like they have a whole vault up at the museum as well. Like yeah, and that's invite only kind of stuff.
Yeah. That's cool. You
I
let me know. I'll hop on a plane. We'll be there.
oh yeah, no, you're not that far. Take a drive, 8 hours. No, I went up actually because my level up is coming up. And last year for my level up, that's what I did. That is what I wanted. I went to the Toy Hall of Fame,
That's
and
dope.
my wife said that I walked around with reckless abandon like an 8-year-old.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
I turned 42 and I went, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to go to the Museum of Play, and we did. Everybody always said, "Oh, you should go. You would love it. You were fantastic. It's great." It really, really was. It was a truly joyous experience. Now, mind you, I also went up in November, so I couldn't play in the Hasbro park outside. Like
Oh.
we sucked down some hot chocolate. We went out. We played in the park. We went back, and I was like, "Oh, shit, it's cold." So yeah, I mean, is there any toy that you could think of that should be in the Toy Hall of Fame?
Should be G.I.
Should be.
Joe, Slinky.
Slinky's already in
Uh,
there.
yeah, should be. It's got to be. Um, Twister should be in there. That was a phenomenon. Uh,
Masters of the Universe is already in there.
well, yeah. I was gonna say that. Yeah, I was trying to stay away from. I was like, how do I get away from the '80s toys? Because they would all be '80s toys that I'm naming off. But G.I. Joe should definitely be in there. Yeah.
Yeah, GI
Monopoly.
Joe.
Monopoly's in there, right? If we're putting
GI Joe was
sequence and
inducted in 2004.
whoa, that's super late, but better late than never.
Well, considering it only
Wait, man, you know what? That was 20
they
years
started
ago.
the Toy Hall of Fame in 1999.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I didn't know that. Okay.
so yeah, they do take nominees. You can go right to the Strong Museum of Play. Take a look. Lego was introduced in 1998. Maybe I got my. Oh no, 98 is when they started. Then they started doing the UPTs in 99. Anyway, it's a great thing. Go check it out. Have
Yes.
fun. Spend a day. Do not go on the weekends. Go during the school year. I'm telling you. Like it's like Disneyland. You don't want to go on the weekends. You don't want to go when kids are there, especially if you're an adult and you want to go and have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. That's the thing. Like go when there's not kids because you're just gonna go get them away.
I still
And
can't
there's
believe
also
you.
the home to the Video Game Hall of Fame as well.
Oh, okay. I was
So
wondering. I was wondering if they were connected or if video games were allowed in there or not.
oh yeah, there we go. The My Little Pony. Now I believe that is Apple Blossom.
Oh, Cat talking about Power Rangers
I
should be in
know
there, but they're not.
they should be. I don't. Well, I don't remember. I don't believe they are. I think that that's a little more,
Yeah,
especially the fact with Transformers, you got to understand: is it Diaclone? Is it Transformers? Is it Takara Tomy? Is it Hasbro? Like, there's a lot of red tape there too.
that's true. That's very true.
hmm I can't tell what that other pony is right there.
It looks like roses on her.
Why do I have you on my small screen? You need to be on my big screen. Hey, there's everybody. That's why I look weird today.
Uh,
Oh, now I can see my face. Ooh. Oh yeah, and then the other one's a flocked version. Like I said, they went for different product lines
yeah.
to show off. And then we've got Phase 10, which I'm guessing it's kind of like Rummy and Uno. Like you know more than I do.
Well, it's nothing like Uno. I haven't played Rummy in so long, I don't know, but you have 10 phases you have to complete to win the game. If you complete your 10 phases first, you win. Like, so the first phase would be like two of a kind. Can you get two of a kind in your hand? Then it's like it keeps getting harder and harder, almost up to like all cards of one color in your hand. Like
Ooh.
1 through 10, a run of 1 through 10, a run of 1 through 12, or something like that. Like,
Okay.
and if you can get to the 10th phase first, you win. And it's a ball, man. I remember playing this a lot with my parents. It was a game night tradition, phase 10. It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
we really didn't do game night when I was a kid. Because I think, like I mentioned before, my cousin won that whole Milton Bradley car.
Yeah.
And so it was always board games when we went down to their house. And at home, it was pretty much card games. It was poker. It was blackjack. Like I'm here 8 years old and now throw this in on Annie up. So I know how to play that really young. But
We had to stop
we
playing
never
board games
played.
because me and my dad were a little too competitive. So
So and then once video games came around, I was like, yeah, go to your room.
oh yeah.
And then we have the robots in disguise themselves.
This is a newer Optimus Prime. I wish they had used the OG, right? Because
Yeah,
I think I had this one back there somewhere. It came out very recently.
and it also could be of what they were able to get their hands on, what photographed well.
That's true. And I
I
mean, he
mean,
looks great. That's a good one to pick.
hmm
Yeah.
I mean, can you ever go wrong with Optimus Prime? Is there ever a bad Optimus Prime? Don't even say
Mm,
firefighter robots and describe Optimus Prime because I loved him. He
nah,
got
he was
that
fine. He was
bandolier
fine. He was fine.
thing and the big old ladder thing that just looked like a
That
blaster.
that like laser Optimus Prime with the huge shoulder pads wasn't super
Mm,
great. And then
yeah.
what was the 90s kind of anime one? Was it Transformers Energon or something like that? Where they had the mini cons?
So that whole Energon trilogy, believe
It
it or
was
not,
really good, don't get me wrong,
it
but
was
that
three
Optimus was
completely
okay.
separate series
Yeah.
in Japan, but we made it all a trilogy here in the States. It was all
Yeah.
rewritten that way.
Yeah. I loved it personally. And the guy that actually did the voice for Optimus Prime was pretty good to not because everybody's like Peter Cullen. I can't remember the guy's name, Brian or something like that. He did a fantastic job. I think about him second every time I think about Optimus Prime.
One of my favorite voices for Optimus Prime, believe it or not, was Transformers Animated, which was the more of the that had the little girl Sorry in it.
Oh yeah.
He was voiced by the same actor who did Megatron on Beast Wars.
That's hilarious.
Yep. The more you know. Boom, 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 boom.
But yeah, Transformers, all-time great toy. Definitely deserves to be in there.
Why are we selling things?
Well, I just saw that. I mean, Christmas is coming, and then I was looking at this stuff.
My birthday too.
And your birthday, right?
I
And I was
know
like, dang, I didn't realize how many things were on like clearance sale on Big Bad Toy Store right now, like stupid good prices. So I just thought, man, what a cool thing to put up there because they had like every kind of franchise you could think of: He-Man, Power Rangers, Marvel, DC, Spawn, TMNT, like everything, and like stuff is like half off, 6% off, and then they got like the Hot 100, which is the I guess like the 100 hottest toys this season or whatever. But even those are reduced, and I'm always looking for a deal. So when I saw this stuff, I was like, dude, if a lot of these things, if you missed them this year, you can go get them now, like way cheaper than they were originally when it came out of retail. And I got to peruse. I just breezed over it today, and I was like, dang, I got to go through this and really look and see if there's a couple things I need to finish a collection or something like that.
And how many are you going to ask your wife before you buy?
Maybe 2, and then I'll get a third one for free. Buy 2, get 1.
Now, do you happen to know if this stuff with the clearance sale and everything, I'm assuming that comes with the good old-fashioned Big Bad Toy Store pile of loot?
Oh yeah, anything you buy on Big Bad Toy Store goes straight to pile. If you want to use it, you can use it straight to pile of loot. So go ahead and buy all your Christmas presents for your collector friends and kids and whoever else may want these toys. Fans of these fandoms and franchises, get them all shipped for $4 flat rate, even if it's 2 toys or if it's 20 toys. So that's awesome. I use that thing all the time.
Nice. So yeah, big shout out again to our sponsors over Big Bad Toy Store. Thank you so very much for working with us, and it's our pleasure to be working with you. Now, let's get into the thing that we're talking about this week. We are talking about video game controllers. Now, we're talking about, so this is a very, very broad subject that we've got going on here. So we kind of talked about this, and we've gotten it down. We're only going to talk about video game controllers up to the year 2000, till really when PlayStation 2 and everything really started blowing up, and we started getting a lot of things. When I was going through and doing this, I was looking for officially licensed controllers.
Yeah.
Oddball ones. Yes, I did find one that was unlicensed, but I had to put it in here because it's for the children. Okay.
For the kids.
So it's because it's for the kids. So please bear in mind as we're going to start. We're not going back as far as Atari. We're not going as far back as ColecoVision because they were, that whole first generation of video game controllers were weird to begin with.
And just simple. They didn't have anything extra. It was just, here's your controller.
Yeah, pretty much. So we're starting off in the Nintendo generation. Okay?
Yes.
Now, if I remember correctly, Mickey, you said that you had one of these controllers.
I've had a few of these. Well, not all the ones on the screen. I only had one of those, but
exactly. So why don't you start off with the one you had, and I'll talk about the one I had.
The ones we see here right now, I just had the what is it? The pad, the square pad. I don't remember
You
what
had
it's
the
called.
advantage.
Yeah, the Advantage. That's the only one I had. I always wanted the Power Glove, but I knew I was never gonna get it. I was a little too young for it anyway. My parents were like, "You don't need that."
Hmm.
I don't even remember Robo until later. I was like, "What?"
So, so let's go down this. Okay. So believe it or not, out of the all of these that are on here, the first that was introduced was Rob the Robot. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, it only worked with a certain games, Gyromite, so on and so forth. It had interchangeable hands as well, depending on what game you were playing. It really only worked with 5 games, and you had to really get those games in the first run of Nintendo. They were the ones that you saw with the plain gray sleeve box or the black box with the little sparkles in the background. And it would have a little logo on it that say that it was multiplayer or if it was Rob compatible. Um, Now nowadays everybody knows Rob from your Smash Brothers games, and
Yeah.
he's more like a little mascot now. You've
Yeah.
even been able to find him in Kirby games, believe it or not. He
Mhm.
sneaks in, he comes in as a cameo. So believe it or not, that was the first one that came out. After that, you had at either corner the Max and the NES Advantage. Now, I also too did have the Advantage. I absolutely loved it.
Mhm.
They tried to base it really much on an arcade type stick setup. The big problem for me was the turbo aspect of it.
Mm.
And it's going to be a common theme you're going to see as we're talking about turbo in these earlier generations of video game controllers. Turbo, all it really did was if the game was capable and set up to do it, you could do ba 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 ba. Mega Man was a prime example of using
Yes.
turbo controller. Blaster Master was a great use of the turbo controller. But other games, if you try to do turbo, sent off a signal that would pause the game.
Uh,
Now I know in Blaster Master, yeah, there was a trick to beat the boss in level 2, shooting him and during the explosion pause the game and it went bing, 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 bing. That helped. But not when you're using the turbo controller. Now, what's interesting is it had the knobs on it. You could turn it up and turn it down. And on the top of it, if you take a look in the top right corner of the controller, it has a switch. That switch was for player 1 and player 2. Because what was interesting about this came with 2 control ports. So you connected it into both in the front of the Nintendo. Why? I don't know. I think they just
yeah.
wanted it easier so you could pass back and forth.
Yeah.
I never could understand that. And we always tried thinking if we got a multi-tap, could we put 2 advantages on one controller or would it read it? Like, I don't know. We were little, crash test dummies of Nintendo back then. So on the other side is the NES Max. A lot of people loved it. A lot of people hated it. I was one that hated it. Have you ever played a game with this?
I never had the Max. Never played on it.
Okay, so the Max was the first real introduction into analog controllers.
Yeah.
Okay, it had a little slidey thumbstick. You try playing Mega Man on this bad boy,
No thanks.
ain't happening. You get stuck up to Sniper Joe, and next thing you know, you're just running into him. One big thing that was an issue with this is that a lot of people would jam on it real hard. It would get stuck. Again, now this has turbo, but what's nice is it doesn't have the option to turn turbo on and off. You push the button, and it worked out a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to the Advantage, which had the activate turbo button, because you had the 2 red buttons, then the 2 toggle buttons, and then you had the intensity button knobs at the top. I got to ask, when you had your NES Advantage, when you got bored, how often did you take the little ball off the top of it?
Oh man, I was always playing with that thing, fiddling with it. I'm surprised it lasted as long as it did.
Yeah,
I always had to be messing with something as a kid, so yeah.
yeah. Like honestly, I'm surprised my parents never crazy glued it together because I don't know, man. I would just be playing with it. I would chew on it, like it was, it was ridiculous. They come up and they'd see me off the landing in my purple carpeted bedroom as a kid.
Yes, I like it.
Sitting with my husband pillow right behind me, the big one on the
Yeah,
floor, looking up at the I don't remember how big screen it was.
13
Um,
inches.
oh no, I was spoiled rotten. I
You were
probably had
living the
like a
dream.
32-inch TV in my bedroom.
Heck yeah. People are like, 32 inches? Dude, that was big back
Big
then.
old CRT TV that needed like 4 feet behind it just for space. You could hear the fan go. It was ridiculous. Now the big one, and again, this was not this was a licensed product. This wasn't released by Nintendo.
Yeah.
Was the U-Force that we're looking at right here below the Max. Now, are you familiar with this? Do you know what this was?
I hadn't even seen that one before.
This is a motion control sensor.
Okay, like a mouse pad?
No, like full on motion control. Like it would read your moves.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dang.
You had to wear like little tiny like bracelets or like mocap kind of style beads, and it used infrared. If your room was too light or too dark, there was problems with that. Pushing buttons was kind of weird. You can see it's got all the toggles down there for trying to figure out, your light amount. This isn't necessarily the full thing. This is just a picture of it. There's also little things you put behind you, so kind of read where you're at. It was interesting. Now, this was made by Border Bund. Border Bund Software. Do you know any other famous titles done by Border Bund?
Maybe. Not off the top of my head.
Oh, I do. Oh, I do. So Border Bund Software was very famous for a lot of great games. Myst.
Really? Okay.
Prince of Persia.
Okay.
The biggest one I think that everyone would kind of know is about a particular thief that wears a red jacket, and we can't find out where in the entire world is Carmen San Diego. So like this really famous company, as far as their programming skills and everything.
Yeah.
They put out a controller that was like, everybody wants it. Nobody needed it.
I love this innovation in the 80s. Like they were just trying anything and everything, and that's great.
And I think what's interesting is that it really came full circle, because as we go through the other, systems, you can notice a lot of them kind of come back. But when finally we're starting to get a little more interactivity or a new generation, shit hits the fan.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the most famous peripheral of the Nintendo. Every kid wanted it. It's the Power Glove.
Man, what a beaut.
It is. Now, do you know when the Power Glove was first introduced? Where the Power Glove was first introduced? Not when.
Was it in the movie The Wizard?
It was introduced in the movie The Wizard.
Because that's where I first saw it, and I was like, dude, how do I get one of those?
One of my friends had it, and unfortunately, with my big ass mitts, I could not put it up.
I didn't know anybody had that thing.
One kid had it in the neighborhood. It was interesting. Like, it wanted to be a Game Genie. So the reason that it has all the buttons up here isn't because you were trying to cheat or put stuff in. It was telling the Power Glove, because it was programmed only for a certain amount of games, which game you were playing. So if you were playing Rad Racer, you would put in code, 555-999-2221. So now it knew that, hey, I'm going to be playing Rad Racer, so we're going to use the motion control for left and right.
Dude, watching the guy play it in The Wizard, like the guy that we see before the competition, I think they see him in like a diner or something. I can't remember where he was, but I was like, it looked so cool, but it looked like uncomfortable.
And he had to take it out of the briefcase.
Yeah.
Power Glove.
Yeah. And it's like, oh man.
In homage, I even did the Fred Savage hairdo for the 80s. So that's really all the things I could find on Nintendo. Again, like I'm saying, folks, these were officially licensed from Nintendo. Most of them done by Nintendo, with the exception of the U-Force. So let's jump into our next system. Now, you're going to notice I don't have a lot more because, like I said, a lot of companies realized, hey, we don't need all this weird or odd stuff.
But we don't need it, but we want it.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't. And you can't follow up Nintendo without talking about Genesis, because that really was the next big system.
Yeah.
I put on the basic Genesis controller. Do you know why?
Why?
It's got 3 buttons.
Oh yeah. It was an awesome thing to look at. I didn't have a Sega Genesis. New kids that did. I was a Nintendo kid. But when I would go over, I mean, just looking at the controller was like a thing. Like, dude, this is awesome.
I remember the first time going over playing Genesis at my buddy Claudio's house, and I would always just want to play Sonic. Why? I wanted that Mod 6 graphics and this. I'm like, oh my god, it's got 3 buttons, and I remember freaking out. Like, what do I do with the 3rd button? How do I play the 3rd button? I mean, you can still see, like, there are people. If you go back, you'll watch people play Nintendo controllers like this on top.
Yeah.
I've even seen a Nintendo controller that has a little thing that you can put a joystick in and play it like that as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a little screw in the D-pad, and you would drop a stick in it and
Wow.
turn it into a. Yep.
I didn't know that.
Again, weird peripherals, but again, we're talking about more licensed stuff from the
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
So yeah, I gotta say, even the original Genesis controller, that was weird to those of us who were Nintendo kids. And I would say a good bit of us all had Nintendo to start off with.
Yeah.
Us elder millennials. Sorry for those you skibbity kids out. You know, and then on the flip side, Sega also wanted to do a Advantage style controller. Now, because Sega Genesis was real popular and did have the 16-bit graphics and everything, because it was the first one out prior to Super Nintendo, this could handle your Street Fighters, your Mortal Kombats. You know, that's what these sticks started coming out as.
Yeah,
very arcade style, very easy for you to be able to put all the inputs in. I really would love to understand how the difference is, because adding the X, Y, and Z buttons in, as opposed to, A, B, and C, how would you do the punches and the kicks and whatnot? Like, I could probably still play Genesis or play Street Fighter on a Genesis, but how do I do a kick versus a jump? That's where or kick versus punch. That's where the advantage of having the Power Stick 6B is. 6B standing for 6 buttons.
Yeah, that looks like the precursor to the eventually like the Street Fighter Fight Pad or whatever they came out with eventually, which is a game changer, man, when you're playing against somebody.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. So that's pretty basic what we have for Genesis. If anybody else has any, interesting ones, talk about them. Throw them in the chat. We want to know what you guys think about some other odd and interesting controllers. Again, we're talking about the ones from the companies. We're not talking Mad Cats or any of those other ones yet. I don't think Mad Cats was a thing yet. So following up with that was the Super Nintendo. And again, these are all licensed. And so we have the Advantage on steroids. Now we have the Super Advantage.
Yeah, I didn't have that one.
Yep, I didn't either. And I think it simply came down to the fact that I loved my Advantage controller. My Advantage controller was like covered in stickers and everything by the time I got rid of it. I don't remember. I think I traded it into Funko Land for like pennies because of the fact that it was covered in stickers and stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't want the Super Advantage because take a look at it. Yeah, you've got all 6 buttons. That's cool and all. But if I was of the mindset, like if I needed shoulder buttons, because that's really was the first controller that came out with shoulder buttons.
Yeah.
How do you play that like this?
Yeah.
If you're not used to it.
Not very ergonomic.
All those toggles up there, it's like that really was intimidating for me.
Makes sense.
Now, this big one here over by me, you got a story about this one?
So the Super Scope, man, that is this is another one that I begged and pleaded for a birthday, right? I saw the commercials and I was like, I'm just telling you, it's the only thing I want. It looks so cool. It's awesome. And I just kept poking, and poking like, please, 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 please.
Mom,
yeah. To the point they were like, leave me. I'm pretty sure eventually they were like, just get the damn thing so you'll shut the hell up. And they, birthday came, I opened it up and I'm so happy I finally got it. Open it up, put it in, play. Not the game came with it, but it just, I realized immediately, I was like, I don't think I want this. It was not fun. I was like, it doesn't work well. It's weird. These games aren't fun. And I was just sitting there feeling so much like regret because I was like, I don't want this and I don't know what to do. I can't tell my parents that I don't like this because I gave them such a hard time about it. Eventually,
sorry, Mr. Smith, if you're watching now.
Yeah, eventually
with interest.
I came to my mom and was like, Mom, just little me was like, Mom, I'm so sorry, but I just don't like this thing at all. She was mad, but she was like, okay. Because this is when Walmarts were just kind of first getting popular too. That's where they got it from. So we're going to box it up. We're going to ask them if they'll take it back. They did. I think I traded it in and I got NBA Jam, I believe, was what I got for Super Nintendo.
Boom, shakalaka.
And that was a game changer because I loved that game. So now I always associate NBA Jam with a Super Scope because I got rid of it so I could get NBA Jams.
So I too have a fun story about the Super Scope 6. The first time I ever played it, and nobody else in the neighborhood had it. Nintendo was having a national tour at the time. And believe it or not, on that tour was Charles Martinet, the voice of Mario. It
Oh
was one
yeah.
of his first real things, and he had like this interactive setup next to the whole kiosk, and you would go up and say, "Hey, Mario," and it would do like simple voices, and or it would do simple faces, and he would be talking behind it. And I remember talking with him before, and telling him, like, "Wow, you actually remember this?" Yeah, I was like 7. I don't care. I'm Super Mario. But then I tried the Super Scope, and I'm like, "Oh, this is cool," but honest to God, it's no light gun.
No.
Like it literally was just a light gun on steroids. At least the light gun, you heard the click, you had the feeling,
Yeah.
there was something physical about it that was nice.
Yeah.
This was just kind of me. And again, I think they called it the Super Scope 6. Say that 3 times fast because there was only 6 games made for it.
I didn't know the number was for the games, but that's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, just like Rob or any of those other things back
Yeah.
then. You had to look for the little logo. Now, do you know about this other one that's all the way down here in the corner?
I've seen that mouse, like, in stores where retro game stores and stuff, but I
Hmm.
I I don't remember when I was a kid, I don't remember having it or seeing it anywhere.
So this came out with Mario Paint.
Oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yep. It really could also come in handy. I believe Tiny Toon Studio was also on Super Nintendo, and I believe it worked with that as well. Um, Tiny Toon Studio was a game that you could make little tiny cutscenes and
Mhm.
animations. It was kind of fun. But yeah, that really didn't have much of a use after the fact. Now they did try using it in other things, like I think there was even a word processing game, and in
Hmm.
Japan a lot of other interesting things because remember we're still trying to push that as an entertainment system. We're not, and to really go at it after the whole video game crash of the early 80s,
Yeah,
Nintendo was really trying to push this as a family computer style system and try to make it as accessible to everyone,
yeah.
you know. But yeah, that was the mouse, and it really only worked with one or maybe two things, and it lives in infamy. I know there are some modders out there that are taking these or making other ones so you can just have one for your own home setup and home computer.
That's awesome.
So I think that's kind of fun, especially
Yeah.
if you. I'm going to talk one other weird peripheral real quick, and it just came to mind looking at the colors all here. Um, Nintendo, and again, you can find one of these up at the Strong Museum. Shout out to them again. There is a kiosk that they used to take around. It was a big ass CRTV on wheels on a stand, very big, wide stand, so it wouldn't knock over. And you would roll it around, believe it or not, in hospitals. And it would be, yeah, it was all colored out like the Super Nintendo because,
Okay.
the children's wards or whatnot who couldn't get out of bed and so on and so forth came with a stack of games and the kids could play them. Now, oddly enough, the only reason I know about this is I was in the hospital when I was little for certain reasons. And unfortunately, they got sent the cart all in Super Nintendo colors. It had a standard Nintendo.
See.
Upside, yours truly hadn't upgraded yet, so I said, "Dad, bring me my games." So here I am playing Mega Man 6. So that tells you how long into into Nintendo dumb it was that they
Yeah,
had this thing. Because even Mega Man 6 was released by Nintendo and not licensed by Capcom. Fun fact.
yeah. So
So
okay.
here I am, and the kid across is like, "Dude, you got all these games. How are you playing?" It's like, "Cause I had my dad bring mine from home because I never got rid of them." And then it's like, "Funko Land, trade up your games." Great. I have one game left from it as a kid.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wish I had all mine. I actually have a lot of old NES stuff that I found again later at, like, yard sales and flea markets,
Nice.
but I do wish I still had kept my original one.
Yeah.
I
But
really wish the one
yeah.
I'm missing is this one, the Super Nintendo, because I thought Super Nintendo was, like, one of my favorite systems of all time. Like, just games-wise, there was so many good games on it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Super Metroid, Mega Man X, like it really did redefine video gaming, and I'm glad that
Yeah,
Nintendo did take its time getting out into the market with this, next, jump in the system to the 16 32-bit system, whatever it was.
yeah,
So I have to give them all the kudos for that.
yeah.
All right, up next we've got Mickey. What I tell you again?
Oh, man. I'm sorry. Wrong one.
Wrong one.
Oops.
Oops. PlayStation. I don't care if you're an elder millennial, you hear that song, or you hear that opening to the PlayStation, like that is goosebumps to you.
Oh yeah.
So we've got 3 controllers here. Two of them are actually licensed by PlayStation. Obviously, I had to throw in the Wu-Tang controller because I keep pointing the wrong way because of my damn camera. Wu-Tang controller.
Which I said earlier, I saw that picture online when looking up odd controllers, and I told you, like, I just thought that was real. I thought somebody maybe custom made that. Like, that's not real. That's not a real controller. But you
So
said?
So Kat here is talking about a child of 2000. She only remembers for the systems of that decade. Now, don't worry, Kat. We're going to be doing a part 2 of this. I think
Yes.
because, like, I mean, we're already running on 45 minutes, and I still got what 2 or 3 slides to go.
Yeah.
And we realized that once you started getting into the PlayStation 2 generation, that's when things really started getting out there.
Oh yeah.
That's when you really started getting also a lot of third party stuff that was really weird or peculiar, like the Wu-Tang controller. Now, for those who don't know, Wu-Tang actually had a fighting game back on the original PlayStation. So this went hand in hand with it. It wasn't something you got with the game. It was something that you could get also as well. What's interesting is this is not a dual shock or dual stick because this came out like 2 years after PlayStation 1 came out with that dual analog controller.
Yeah.
They still went very basic style while designing this, like the first generation PlayStation 1 controllers. So that was pretty interesting. And also, at this point, we didn't have rumble yet in controllers.
Looks like it had plenty of room to put them, though.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
It could feel like you had a whole thing of killer bees in the controller. Then below that, we have this dual axis controller that, again, is released by Sony. This was for your flight simulator games. I don't know how I feel about this. I think you might be able to get away with playing. Maybe you get away with playing maybe a driving game with it. I think it could be kind of fun. Maybe do a little Knight Rider. I don't know if I could be playing Mega Man X4 on there, but Mega Man 8. I don't know.
That's a very hyper specific type of game to play that with.
Yeah, like here we're just gonna and don't get me wrong, there's whole decks now that people make for their driving.
Oh, dude, yeah.
And there's some other ones that I saw while doing research for this, and I'm like, oh my god, I want that now on my own setup. And this is like 20 some odd years old. It probably doesn't have all the bells and whistles, but that would be fantastic. Lastly, we have this interesting board game style controller.
The game
Now,
of life here. Is that what that is? The
well,
spinny wheel?
you think it's ridiculous. This is a Japanese only release.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know what? This is too cool. Now, I don't know how the spinner works, but the fact that they were able to incorporate is still a full D-pad, is still a control button pad. The shoulder buttons are there. They're the 2 tiny little silver button or 2 tiny gray buttons. I really would be interested in how this works. This is something I definitely could see myself being dared to play one of my games, like good run and gun. Obviously, you're not going to play like Rainbow Six or whatnot because there's no analog on there.
No.
I wonder if you can do that with that flight controller though, because you see how the right stick has an analog on there.
Yeah, it does.
Right? Might be a good system for a lefty though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, there's things to look up. There's things to talk about. I don't know. And then we go to the Dreamcast. Now this is where the generations really this was that neat transition. I think this is where the watermark was from the old games to where new gaming is. And I'm not saying that PlayStation really didn't set the mark because going to disc-based system, but I think the Dreamcast being Sony and Sony also having proprietary, CD stuff, understood how it worked so well.
Yeah.
I just don't think they were great as a video game developer. They were good as, making a few systems. And then remember, Dreamcast was the last system Sony ever made.
Yeah. And it was fun. I remember when it came out, a friend of mine bought it. And we played a lot of games on it. I was always fascinated by it because he was the only one person I knew that had it.
Yeah, nobody in my neighborhood did.
Yeah, it was fascinating to me, and yeah, I thought it was cool. But it was also, yeah, like you said, like very like, I don't want to say like revolutionary or anything, but it was maybe a little bit ahead of its time. But also they They were throwing everything at the wall to see what would stick.
Well, let's talk about first and foremost the controller itself. Now, this is the first generation controller that they had out there, up here with all the multicolored buttons, which was very kind of, hey, we're going to rip off the Super Nintendo Japanese style controllers. This is one of the first ones out there that had like a analog stick and D-pad setup.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you look down in the corner, there's the Dreamcast memory card, which also had its own little virtual pet in it, which I thought was very revolutionary. Like, okay, this is when Digimon and your Pokemon pets and your Tamagotchis were really popular.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you got to give them credit there. No, actually, Nate, you're completely right. I was debating on putting this up, the Virtual Boy. Yeah, it really was something. I remember play testing it at my local Toys R Us, and my head hurt.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough on the eyes.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and now you look at us now with all of our VRs and Oculuses and going, oh yeah, cool. And people running into walls because they don't remember how to, remember stay in the circle. But yeah, so the original Dreamcast controller. Here's an odd thing. Besides the chunky layout that it had.
I like that. I like big controllers.
I like big controllers, but the ergonomics of it didn't seem right.
I got you.
There
was a lot of space, a lot of wasted space there at the bottom.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's because they were trying to incorporate that memory card as well.
Yeah,
which also put the cord on the bottom of the controller. So always remembering having to hold it up in a particular position. You couldn't play it down because you might pull it out from the system.
Yeah.
Also, honorable mention, we want to also talk about Sega Saturn. I wasn't going to do a whole window or a whole thing for it. That is the Sega Saturn multi-use gamepad. No. No. And that is the size of a freaking CD. Like that's,
huge.
It's big. Like how do you get your little tiny kid palms around to the A and B button?
Well, this was this was about the time when I think we hadn't grown up to be adults, but we were older teenagers, right? And some adults were playing too, probably.
Oh yeah.
I think they were trying to push a little more towards them, like an older generation than they were kids at the time. So you got bigger hands.
I don't know, but again, comes down to the ergonomics. Like, yeah, it's got wings down here, but then my thumb's got to go reach.
Yeah, that's a long way.
Weird. Now, in the arcade, Sega's always been so fantastic in arcades, and they had like Big Bass Fishing and so on and so forth.
Dude, their fishing games were like,
yeah.
Like so I would love. I'm not a fisherman, but I would play fishing games all day on a Sega.
Yeah. So it made sense that they brought them to home release and they made their own Sega Dreamcast fishing controller.
I wish I had known about this back then because I would have wanted to play with that.
I think that's great. You can't go wrong with it.
No.
I mean, it's perfect. I mean, it really is. Again, with the cord on the bottom, not a fan.
Yeah.
But the fact that you got a full reel on there, you've got, the analog, you've got a few buttons. I don't know if there was any space for shoulder buttons. I couldn't find an underside picture. But it served its purpose. And obviously they probably programmed the game, designing it around that controller. So you didn't need to use all the buttons as well.
Yeah. You weren't playing anything else with that controller.
So interesting. And then the last one we're going to talk about tonight is the Maracas controller from Samba de Amigo. This is right when we start getting into music style games. Pa Rapper, the Rapper was more of a beat game that you did with your thumbs. But this one actually came with a control board on top. And if you look at either side of it, has these two little gray things. Those gray little markers were microphones, so it could hear you play. So not only did you get the rhythm and it could feel it, but it could hear it. And that's how you scored points in the game. I never had it. Like I said, Dreamcast was foreign to me.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed till I started looking up stuff. I was like, really? Maracas? Like, out of all the things that I thought I would find, Maracas was not on the list.
Yeah, Guitar Hero, Rock Band, Donkey Kong, Conga, and then we get Maracas.
Maracas. But you know what? I would have fun. I think I would play that now. Like, dude, let me play that.
I think I would until your mom come busting in and going, stop those things. That's one of those things you get for your niece or nephew, for your sibling, or
yeah,
that you don't like.
right. What about the Dreamcast tambourines? No, I'm just kidding. That's not a real thing.
I play Space Channel 5 with it all the time. But that's really all we've got tonight, because I think that we really can't do all the video game controllers justice. There's way too much out there, so we're definitely going to come back with a part 2. I think it would be absolutely wonderful to do that. Now, do you want it sooner? Do you want it later? Talk to us. Let us know what you want. Do you want it next week? Let us know in the comments below. Do you want it a few weeks from now? Do we want to talk about something else next week? We want to know. So make sure that you are subscribed. Make sure that you hit that bell icon. Make sure you tap that thumbs up, so that way Mickey keeps smiling. Okay, maybe don't thumbs up that hard.
I give you the presidential thumbs up. Can I do that?
We already talked about presidential tours. I agree that when you have to make a point, that you got to use the thumb. But yeah, other than that, it has been a week here over at Nerd Initiative. We've had a lot of great stuff. We've had a lot of fantastic reviews. Don't forget, tomorrow night we've got Turnip Page. Wednesday we've got how many comic book reviews coming out?
Oh, Turnip Page, you guys are doing Cheersies nominations, right?
I believe Cheersies are tomorrow night.
Yeah.
So make sure that you are tuned in and turned on for that. It is one of the biggest things that we have done. Shout out to our friend Brian from Cheers for Comics for letting us, run with this as from him. And we've kept going on with this. All voiceover work done by the incomparable Mickey CWK Smith. And yours truly just, sitting there going, yep. But so we got Cheersies, and then we've got on Wednesday, we've got all the comic reviews. Thursday, we're dropping in from the top rope with Wrestling Light Live. There's so much stuff going on over at Nerd Initiative, and we want you here with us too. We've got a bunch of new TV reviews coming out, a bunch of comic book reviews, a bunch of everything. So make sure that you are checking out your website. Now, we did talk about our friends over at Big Bad Toy Store with having their clearance sale for the holidays. Don't forget, because the holidays are coming up, make sure you wear your nerd on your sleeve and go and pick up the Nerd Initiative merchandise. It's comfy, it's wonderful, makes you feel all wrapped up in all that lovely nerd love that there is. It's great. So on behalf of everybody here at Nerd Initiative, my name's Off the Cuff Tom. That's Mickey CKW Smith. Mickey, take it out.
As always, I like to wrap it up by saying, be kind to yourself, right? Especially in times like today. But